Hi guys, I'm here to read you the two texts that you need for the first lesson in writing. So first I'm going to read you the excerpt from Printer's Ink. So you should have a copy with you. It should be in your ELA folder and read along as I read to you. When Benjamin Franklin was 12, he went to work in his brother James's print shop. Ben had trouble getting along with his brother, but he loved being a printer. Who wouldn't have loved it? Print shops were great places to be, whether you were interested in politics, science, books, or the local gossip. In Ben Franklin's in Ben Franklin's day, printers did more than just run the printing presses. Many printers published newspapers. When Ben was a man, he opened his own print shop in Philadelphia. Soon he started publishing a weekly newspaper called the Pennsylvania Gazette. Later, he began a second newspaper in German to serve Pennsylvania's many German settlers. He published one of America's first magazines, too. Ben Franklin also published books, novels, school books, medical books for doctors, and more. He printed books about new scientific discoveries, and he became friends with many of the people who wrote those books. One of Ben Franklin's most famous works, and his first big success, was Poor Richard's Almanac. Ben wasn't the only printer to publish an almanac. Everyone used almanacs. Helpful books that contain all sorts of useful information like calendars, weather forecasts, moon phases, and planting advice. And everyone bought a new almanac each year. What was different about Franklin's almanac were his wise and funny sayings and useful everyday advice. Ben's sayings became popular. Today, people still repeat many of them. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise is one of his sayings. Franklin never quit printing. When he was 42, he retired from business, but printing was still his hobby. During the Revolutionary War, Franklin moved to France. In Paris, he kept a small printing press. When he had time, he printed essays for his friends to read. Many people believe that Ben Franklin's autobiography, the story of his own life, was the first great book ever written by an American. Franklin wrote it when he was an old man, finishing it at the age of 82. He continued writing even on his deathbed. His last writings were essays against slavery. Ben Franklin became famous as a scientist, inventor, writer, and statesman. But when he wrote his will, he began with the words, I, Benjamin Franklin of Philadelphia, printer. Okay, and then I'm going to go down and I'm going to read Young Ben Franklin, excerpt from Young Ben Franklin. Ben's early childhood was happy. He spent a lot of time playing, swimming, and fishing on the Charles River in Boston. Determined to swim faster, young Ben designed and made paddles for his hands and feet to help him move through the water more easily. Even as a child, Franklin had an inventive mind and a desire to improve himself. From a child I was fond of reading, Ben wrote, and all of the little money that came into my hands was ever laid out in books. Although he went to school for only 2 years, Ben learned about many different subjects by reading books and talking to people who knew more than he did. He looked at the world in a practical way, trying to find solutions for everyday problems. When Ben was 10, he left school and began working in his father's soap and candle shop. He spent his days employed in cutting wick for candles, filling dipping mold, attending the shop, going on errands, etc. Although Ben did not enjoy this experience, it helped him learn the importance of hard work. He also spent time with his father watching the other craftsmen at their work. He learned to appreciate good workmanship and creativity. After several years, it became clear to Ben's father that his son wasn't happy in the soap and candle shop. Mr. Franklin sent Ben to work with his older brother James, who owned a print shop. Although James was often harsh with his younger brother, Ben enjoyed the printing business. In a little time, I made a great proficiency in the business and became a useful hand to my brother, he wrote later. Not only did Ben learn all of the skills of printing, he also wrote poetry, essays, and articles for his brother's newspaper. Ben's natural ability as a writer developed quickly. When Ben worked with his brother, he spent much of his free time reading. I often sat up in my room reading the greatest part of the night, when the book was borrowed in the evening to be returned early in the morning. He also used this time to improve his writing skills. Studying the work of the other authors, Ben would try to rewrite their essays in his own words. When he was 17, Ben left his brother's print shop. He moved to Philadelphia and found work as a printer and writer. Eventually, he opened his own print shop. Later, his accomplishments as a scientist and statesman made him one of the most powerful and important men in America. But Ben Franklin never forgot the lessons he learned during his boyhood years.